I thought I had the perfect family. My parents had been married for 25 years, ran a successful medical supply company in Seattle, and from the outside, we looked like we had it all figured out. My older sister Victoria was the golden child married to a surgeon, 2 kids, living in a McMansion in Bellevue. And then there was me, Emma, 28 years old, still single, still renting a studio apartment in Capitol Hill, working as a data analyst for a tech startup. But here's what nobody saw. I was the family's free labor. The emergency babysitter, the dog walker, the house sitter, the errand runner, the one who dropped everything whenever anyone needed something. It all came crashing down on a Tuesday evening in March. My parents had invited me over for dinner, which wasn't unusual. What was unusual was that Victoria was there too, and she had this weird smile on her face. You know, the one that doesn't quite reach the eyes but screams, "I know something you don't." We sat down to eat, and my father cleared his throat in that dramatic way he always did when he was about to make an announcement. My mother was practically vibrating with excitement. "We have wonderful news," Dad said, reaching for Mom's hand. "As you both know, our 25th wedding anniversary is coming up next month. We've decided to do something special," Mom added, her eyes gleaming. "We're taking the entire family on a 2-week Mediterranean cruise. Greece, Italy, Croatia, all of it. We leave April 15th. Victoria squealed and clapped her hands. "Oh my God, Mom. That's amazing. The kids are going to lose their minds." I felt my stomach drop, but I forced a smile. "Wow, that sounds incredible. When do we need to request time off work?" That's when the room got quiet. My father set down his fork. My mother's smile faltered just slightly. Victoria suddenly became very interested in her wine glass. "Well, Emma," Dad said slowly, "here's the thing. Victoria and James and the kids are coming, of course. But we need someone to stay behind and take care of things here." I blinked. "Take care of things?" Mom jumped in, her voice taking on that syrupy sweet tone she used when she wanted something. "We have the dogs, sweetheart. And someone needs to watch the house. You know how neighborhoods are these days, packages get stolen, break-ins happen when houses look empty. You want me to house sit for 2 weeks?" I asked carefully. "It's not just house sitting," Victoria said, and there was an edge to her voice now. "My au pair quit last week. I need someone to take care of the kids during the day while James is at the hospital." I stared at her. "You want me to babysit for 2 weeks while you're on a cruise?" "Emma, don't be dramatic," my father said, using that tone. The one that meant the decision was already made and I was being difficult for even questioning it. "Family takes care of family. We all make sacrifices. But I have a job," I said. "I have projects with deadlines. I can't just take 2 weeks off too." "Your job?" my mother interrupted, "can wait. Can't you work remotely? You're on a computer all day anyway. While watching 2 kids under 5? I asked. "While taking care of 3 dogs. While maintaining your house." My father's face hardened. "Emma, I don't think you understand how much we've invested in this trip. The cruise alone cost $18,000, not to mention Victoria and James's accommodations. This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience for our family. Then why am I not invited?" The words came out sharper than I intended. The silence was deafening. Victoria looked away. Mom suddenly found her napkin fascinating. Dad just stared at me with this cold expression I'd seen before, the one that said I was being ungrateful. Because, he finally said, "Someone has to be the responsible one. Victoria has obligations. She has a husband, children, a household to manage. You're unattached, flexible. You have the time." "I have a career," I said quietly. "Do you?" Victoria muttered, just loud enough for me to hear. I turned to her. "What's that supposed to mean?" She shrugged, taking a sip of wine. "I'm just saying, Emma, you're 28 years old. You're still in a studio apartment. You're still at some startup that probably won't exist in a year. You're still figuring things out. Some of us have real responsibilities." My mother reached across the table and patted my hand. "We're not saying your life isn't important, sweetheart. But let's be honest, you're not married. You don't have children. You don't have the kind of obligations that Victoria has. This is just 2 weeks. Is that really too much to ask?" I looked around the table. At my father's stern face. At my mother's pleading eyes. At Victoria's smug smile. And I realized something that made my chest tighten. They had already decided. This wasn't a request. This wasn't even a discussion. They had planned this entire thing knowing I would be left behind, and they were just waiting for me to accept it. "What if I say no?" I asked. My father's jaw clenched. "Then you'd be showing us exactly what kind of daughter you really are." I felt tears prickling at my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "Not here. Not in front of them." "Fine," I heard myself say. "I'll do it." Mom's face lit up. "Oh, Emma, thank you. You're such a good girl." Victoria smiled. "I'll drop off the binder tomorrow." "Binder?" I asked. "Oh, Just a little itinerary, she said breezily. Feeding schedules for the kids, nap times, activities, emergency contacts. You know. The basics. And mom's dogs have their routines too: medications, walking schedules, the vet's number. How detailed are we talking? I asked, a sinking feeling in my stomach. Victoria laughed. Nothing crazy. Maybe 50 pages? I'm very thorough. 50 pages. 2 weeks. 2 kids. 3 dogs. A house. While everyone else sailed around the Mediterranean, I drove home that night in a daze. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. When I got back to my studio apartment, the one Victoria had just mocked, I sat on my bed and finally let myself cry. But as I sat there, something shifted inside me. Anger replaced sadness. Cold, calculating anger. I opened my laptop and started doing what I did best. Analyzing data. See, here's what my family didn't know about me. I wasn't just a data analyst. I specialized in financial fraud detection. My startup had a contract with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. I spent my days looking at spreadsheets, finding patterns, uncovering discrepancies that pointed to embezzlement, money laundering, tax evasion, and I had access to my parents' house. I had access to their home office. I had their Wi-Fi password. I had 2 weeks alone with everything. If they wanted me to be the family servant, then fine. But I was going to make sure I got paid for it. Victoria dropped off the binder the next day. It was actually 73 pages. Color-coded tabs. Laminated pages. There were sections on meal preparation, dietary restrictions, screen time limits, educational activities, sleep training techniques, behavioral management strategies. There was a chart showing which organic vegetables to buy from which farmers market on which days. For the dogs, there were medication schedules, exercise routines, grooming appointments, and a list of approved and unapproved treats with detailed explanations. This seems like a lot, I said, flipping through it. Victoria waved her hand dismissively. It's really not. Once you get into the routine, it's easy. The kids are angels. Just follow the schedule and everything will be fine. And if there's an emergency, then you handle it, she said. You're an adult, Emma. I'm sure you can figure it out. We'll have spotty internet on the cruise, so try not to bother us unless someone's literally dying. After she left, I sat at my kitchen table and stared at the binder. 73 pages of instructions for 2 weeks of unpaid labor. No thank you. No apology for the short notice. No acknowledgement that I was sacrificing my time, my work, my life so she could sip champagne in Santorini. I opened my laptop and got to work. First, I called my boss and explained the situation. He was surprisingly understanding, probably because I'd been working on a major project involving suspicious financial transactions for a mid-sized medical supply company, and he knew I could work remotely. What he didn't know was that the medical supply company in question was my parents' business. I'd been assigned to their case 3 weeks ago, completely by coincidence, and I'd been quietly gathering data ever since. I hadn't said anything because I kept telling myself there was probably a reasonable explanation. That maybe the discrepancies were just accounting errors. That my parents wouldn't actually be doing anything illegal. But now? Now I was going to find out for sure. The family left on April 15th. My father handed me a key to their house with a stern reminder to take good care of things. My mother hugged me and told me I was such a blessing. Victoria texted me a list of last-minute instructions about her children's bath time routines. Nobody said thank you. Nobody offered to pay me. Nobody asked if I needed anything. The moment their car turned the corner toward the airport, I walked into my parents' house and went straight to my father's office. Their security system was laughably easy to bypass. I'd watched him enter the code a dozen times. The filing cabinet in his office wasn't even locked. I pulled out my phone and started photographing every document I could find. Tax returns. Bank statements. Invoices. Contracts. Ledgers. Everything. Then I logged into their home computer. No password protection on the local network. My father's desktop was just sitting there, wide open. I installed a small program that would mirror his hard drive to my cloud storage. Then I did the same with my mother's laptop. Over the next 3 days, while following Victoria's ridiculous binder schedule and taking care of 2 screaming kids and 3 dogs who clearly had no manners, I analyzed everything. And I found it. The shadow ledger. My father had been running 2 sets of books for the medical supply company, one for the IRS, one for himself. Over the past 7 years, he had systematically underreported income by approximately $2.3 million. He'd hidden it through a complex network of shell companies, fake invoices, and offshore accounts. But that wasn't all. My mother, who handled HR and payroll, had been running a ghost employee scheme. She'd created fake workers, complete with social security numbers, stolen from identity theft, and had been collecting their paychecks for the past 5 years. Another $400,000 in fraud. And Victoria? Sweet, perfect Victoria with her McMansion and her surgeon husband? Her husband James was in on it too. He'd been writing fraudulent prescriptions for high-value medications, which my parents' company would then bill to insurance companies. The kickback scheme had netted them around $600,000 over 3 years. I sat back in my father's office chair, surrounded by 3 dogs who were begging for dinner and with my phone buzzing with another message from Victoria about her children's probiotic schedule, and I started laughing. They thought I was the failure. The one who hadn't figured out her life. The one who was still flexible enough to be their servant. But I was the one with the evidence that would send all of them to federal prison. I spent the next week documenting everything. I cross-referenced their business records with their personal bank accounts. I tracked the offshore transfers. I identified every shell company. I matched the fake employees' social security numbers to real people whose identities had been stolen. I documented James's prescription fraud pattern. I also hired a pet sitter and a nanny using my own money I earned from my supposedly insignificant job. Because unlike my family, I wasn't going to leave children and animals to suffer while I pursued my agenda. The kids went to daycare. The dogs went to a doggy spa for daily activities. I worked from my parents' house, using their own computer to compile evidence of their crimes. On day 10, I received a text from Victoria. It was a photo of her and Mom in front of the Parthenon, cocktails in hand, both of them grinning. The caption, "Having the time of our lives. Hope the kids aren't driving you too crazy." I looked at that photo for a long time. My mother's Chanel sunglasses. Victoria's designer sundress. The smug satisfaction on both their faces. I opened a new browser window and navigated to the FBI's financial crimes tip line. I didn't use my work credentials. I submitted everything anonymously. 300 pages of documentation. Bank records. Tax documents. Invoiced. Wire transfer receipts. The whole thing. Then I did the same with the IRS. And the Washington State Attorney General's office. And the DEA, for James's prescription fraud. I made sure every agency had everything they needed. I'd spent weeks building the case through my work, and now I gift-wrapped it with a bow. Finally, on day 12, I packed up my things, collected the kids from daycare and the dogs from their spa, and went back to my studio apartment. I left a note on my parents' kitchen counter. Emergency at work. Had to leave early. Kids and dogs have been taken care of, receipts attached. Good luck with everything. The receipts totaled $3,200. I wasn't expecting them to pay me back, but I wanted them to know exactly what their free labor had actually cost. Then I waited. My family got back on April 29th. I didn't hear from any of them. No thank you text. No call to check in. Nothing. On May 2nd, I got a call from my boss. "Emma, we need to talk about the medical supply company case." "What about it?" I asked carefully. "The FBI is moving forward with indictments. Multiple agencies are involved now, IRS, DEA, State Attorney General. This is huge. Someone provided them with an absolute goldmine of evidence." "Really?" I kept my voice neutral. "Do they know who?" "Anonymous tip. But whoever it was did our job for us. The forensic accounting team said it's the cleanest case they've seen in years. Everything documented, cross-referenced, time-stamped, professional-level work." "That's great," I said. "What happens now?" "Arrests, probably within the week." "Emma," he paused. "I know this is your parents' company. Are you going to be okay?" I thought about that question. Was I going to be okay? "Yeah," I said. "I think I will be." They arrested my father at his office on May 8th. My mother was taken in at their house the same day. Victoria's husband James was arrested at the hospital where he worked. Victoria herself was brought in for questioning. They didn't charge her directly, but she was named as a person of interest in the conspiracy. My phone started ringing off the hook. My father called from jail. My mother left sobbing voicemails. Victoria sent me a barrage of texts. "How could you not warn us? Do you know what's happening? We need you to come down and talk to the investigators on our behalf." I didn't answer any of them. 3 days later, Victoria showed up at my apartment. She looked terrible, no makeup, hair unwashed, wearing yoga pants and a stained t-shirt. "Emma, please," she said the moment I opened the door. "You have to help us. You work with these people. You can tell them this is all a misunderstanding." "Is it a misunderstanding?" I asked calmly. She stared at me. "What?" "The $2.3 million in unreported income. The fake employees. James's prescription fraud. Is all of that a misunderstanding?" Her face went pale. "How do you?" "Emma, what did you do?" "I did exactly what you asked me to do," I said. "I took care of things while you were on vacation. I was very thorough. Just like you are with your binders. You turned us in." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I documented illegal activity and reported it to the appropriate authorities. You know, responsible adult things. You destroyed our family." She screamed. "Mom and Dad could go to prison. James could lose his medical license. I could lose everything. Yes, I said simply. You could. You probably will. How could you? Tears were streaming down her face now. We're your family. I looked at her for a long moment. Family takes care of family, Victoria. Those were Dad's exact words. But you know what? Family doesn't get to treat someone like free labor. Family doesn't get to mock someone's life choices while demanding sacrifices. Family doesn't get to commit federal crimes and expect everyone to look the other way. We gave you everything, she sobbed. We raised you, clothed you, fed you. That's called being parents, I interrupted. That's the bare minimum. That's not something I owe you for. And for the record, I didn't give you everything. I gave you exactly what you gave me. Nothing. She just stared at me, mascara running down her face, this broken version of the sister who'd smiled so smugly over dinner just weeks ago. You're going to regret this, she finally said, her voice cold. When you're old and alone and you have nobody, you're going to remember what you did to your family. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'll remember the 2 weeks I spent being treated like a servant while you drank cocktails in Greece. Maybe I'll remember the 73-page binder. Maybe I'll remember being told my life doesn't matter because I'm not married with kids. Maybe I'll remember all of that and feel just fine about my choices. I closed the door. She stood there for a few minutes, crying, then finally left. The trial took 8 months. My parents pleaded guilty to multiple counts of tax fraud, wire fraud, and identity theft. My father got 12 years in federal prison. My mother got 8. James got 10 years and lost his medical license permanently. Victoria avoided prison but was placed on probation and ordered to pay restitution to several victims of the identity theft scheme. All of their assets were seized: houses, cars, bank accounts, everything. The court ordered them to pay back taxes plus penalties, which totaled more than $4 million. Through the victim restitution program, I received a payment of $18,000. The exact cost of the Mediterranean cruise I hadn't been invited on. I used it as a down payment on a 1-bedroom apartment with a water view. I never spoke to my parents again. My father tried writing me letters from prison, claiming I had betrayed the family, that I was ungrateful, that I had destroyed innocent lives over a misunderstanding. My mother's letters were worse: manipulative, guilt-tripping, claiming she was sick and needed me. I returned them all unopened. Victoria tried to reconcile once. She showed up at my office about a year after the sentencing. She'd lost weight, looked exhausted, aged 10 years. She told me she was divorced, that James blamed her for everything, that her kids barely spoke to her, that she was living in a rental apartment and working retail because nobody would hire her for anything else. I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry for everything. For how we treated you. For taking you for granted. For that dinner. For the binder. For all of it. I know it doesn't change anything, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. I looked at her, this shell of my former sister, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. No pity. Just emptiness. I appreciate you saying that, I told her. But I don't forgive you. Will you ever? She asked. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday. But not today. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and left. I haven't seen her since. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. If I wish I'd handled it differently. If I miss my family. The honest answer. No. What I miss is the illusion. I miss believing I had a family that loved me. I miss thinking that their treatment of me was just normal family stuff. Inconvenient but ultimately harmless. But I don't miss them. Because the truth is, they never really saw me. To my father, I was free labor. To my mother, I was the daughter who hadn't lived up to expectations. To Victoria, I was the failure she could look down on to feel better about herself. They didn't love me. They loved what I could do for them. And when I couldn't do that anymore, when I became the person who held them accountable instead of the person who enabled them, they turned on me completely. So no. I don't regret it. I'm 30 now. Still single, still unattached, still working for the same startup that Victoria said wouldn't last a year. Except now I'm the director of financial analytics, and we just got acquired by a major firm for enough money that my stock options mean I'll never have to worry about rent again. I have friends. Real ones. People who value me for who I am, not what I can do for them. I have a career I'm proud of. I have an apartment I love. I have a life that's mine. Last month, I went on a Mediterranean cruise. By myself. Just because I could. I stood on the deck as we sailed past Santorini at sunset, and I thought about that dinner 2 years ago, about my father's cold face. About Victoria's smug smile. About the 73-page binder. About being told I was too unattached, too flexible, too unimportant to deserve a family vacation. And I smiled, because they were wrong. I wasn't too unattached. I was just attached to the wrong people. But I'm not anymore. I'm free. And they're not. Sometimes I wonder if my father, sitting in his federal prison cell, thinks about that Tuesday evening. If he remembers the moment I asked, "What if I say no?" and he said I'd be showing them what kind of daughter I really was. I hope he does, because I showed them exactly what kind of daughter I am. The kind who keeps receipts, the kind who knows her worth, the kind who understands that family isn't an excuse for exploitation, the kind who refuses to set herself on fire to keep ungrateful people warm, the kind who, when pushed into a corner, doesn't just fight back, she documents everything and sends it to the FBI. I spent 28 years being the good daughter. The flexible one. The responsible one. The one who sacrificed. It took me 2 weeks to become free. Best trade I ever made.